Good morning and welcome. Welcome to TEDx Talks. We are so pleased to have you here this morning. My name is Kim Desatel. I'm the Director of Development for the campus. I'm also involved in helping to do some planning for the common theme on our campus as well. Today's event is part of that, part of the common theme. The common theme on our campus is titled Engaging in Public Life. And the common theme is a year-long program to help engage our campus and our community in learning and thinking together as an institution. There are numerous events planned for this entire calendar year revolving around the theme of engaging in public life. I'm going to deviate just a little bit and actually introduce Professor Aaron Weinshank. Aaron, can you just stand up or wave back there? Aaron is a professor in the Public and Environmental Affairs Department, and Aaron submitted the common theme to our campus committee this year, and that common theme of engaging in public life was selected. So you've been very instrumental in planning today and this week and other events. So thank you very much, Aaron. Thank you. We modeled today's events after TED Talks, and hopefully you're very familiar with TED Talks, but we wanted to bring it to a different level, to a community level, to a little bit more of an intimate level that's regional, that benefits us. Our speakers that you'll hear from today are some of the most highly regarded leaders in our community and in our area. They work hard every single day to make this a better place. They're very passionate about what they do. They are also graduates of our program at the university here, and we're very, very proud of that. They're here to share a little bit with you today to talk about why engaging in the value of public service is important. For the talks today, each of our speakers really are representing a nonprofit organization in our region. The format today and what we'll do is we'll ask each speaker to speak for about 10 minutes. They'll begin with a short introduction of themselves and talk a little bit about why it's valuable and important to work in public service. We'll follow each one of them down the row, and then we'll finish the hour with a question and answer. So think a little bit about how you can probe our guests today, how you can continue to learn from them, how you can ask questions that will continue the discussion as well. So without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and introduce, we have Sara Bruesewitz with us. Sara is from the American Red Cross, all the way to the far end of the table. We have Nicole Hoffman. Nicole represents today ASPIRO. You'll learn a little bit more about her organization today as well. And we have Sara Inman. Sara represents the United Way today. So without further ado, Sara, at the end, I'll go ahead and have you begin with introductions and a little bit more about why you serve in public life. Thank you all for being here.
Okay. Can you hear me if I speak this far away? Is the mic on?
You can pull that to you a little bit.
I have a very quiet voice. Is this better? Okay, there we go.
You can also hold it if you wish to.
Okay. So I'm Sara Bruesewitz. Like Kim said, I work for the American Red Cross, actually down in Milwaukee now. I graduated from UW Green Bay in 2012. I was a political administration and political science major, and I emphasized in nonprofit management. So more about my role with the Red Cross. I first started as a public support coordinator, which meant that mainly worked with media relations, our social media and blog accounts, and did a little bit of grant writing. And most recently just became a major gift associate, and so I work with our individual donors in our community, as well as supporting our fundraising team and working with local businesses. So what led me to the public sector is actually a pretty funny story. When I came to UW Green Bay in 2008, I was dead set that I was going to be a psychology major and go on to grad school and work as a psychologist. And I took the freshman seminar in psychology and hated it. And so quickly realized I needed to change courses and took the career planning course. It's like a 1-credit class, which was awesome, and that led me to public administration. So after speaking with a few professors and kind of realizing more and more what the field was, I realized it was a good fit for me. That summer I did an internship with the village of East Troy, down in southeastern Wisconsin, worked with the admin department there, worked from everything from the Park and Recs department to the DPW, and really learned the ins and outs of what an admin would be like. After that, I did an internship with the mayor's office here in Green Bay, and I administered a $1 million energy efficient grant from the federal government. And that was a really eyes-open experience about what grants are and what they can do for our community, and kind of how you can have a better impact through raising funds and administering them right in your own community. So after that job with the mayor, I worked for the Red Cross. Excuse me. And the Red Cross really opened my eyes to what being a public servant is. I had the fortunate experience to go out to New Jersey when Hurricane Sandy hit the East Coast, and I worked there for a month supporting that chapter when I was still in my public support coordinator role, and I was talking one-on-one with residents of the New Jersey area with Twitter, and they were telling me that they needed help and they had no food, they had no clothing, some of them were diabetic and they needed help, and so I was using Twitter to have an impact on that community, getting the Red Cross out there, within the next hour. After that, a few months later, I went to Oklahoma after the tornado hit more, and I worked with the fundraising team there, talking with donors about what they were donating to the Red Cross and kind of having an impact there, and that really opened my eyes to what my job was. And I get a little emotional thinking about it because it was kind of that aha moment that I had, that I was in the right spot and I was doing what I needed to be doing, and I just made a career out of it. And so some advice that I have for you on why you should become a public servant as well and make a career out of it is, first of all, as a nonprofit, and I'm sure my colleagues up here will agree with me, you get to work with some of the most amazing volunteers in the world. And so you as a staff member get to carry out that mission through them. No matter what organization you're working for, it's really special that you have volunteer staff that's supporting you as well. And you also get to work with other businesses, for-profit, or individuals that want to support you and put their funding out through you and have a difference that way. And for me, especially working in a disaster relief organization, I get to educate the public about important issues. So I think the most important advice I can give to you first is to find a mentor, someone that can really help answer those questions that you have, whether it's am I in the right spot? What do I need to do with my life? I'm about to graduate. I have no idea what I'm doing. Kind of guide you in that way. And my second point of advice is something that I got when I was about to graduate. And it was to read a book called So Good They Can't Ignore You. And it's a good book that is talking about finding your skills, and your skills will lead you to your passion. So what is something that you're really good at, whether it's budgeting, math, science, whatever it is, what can you turn that into to create your passion? And I really recommend reading that book. I'm good.
Thanks. Hi, my name is Nicole Hoffman, and I'm going to stand while I talk with you today. I am a 1999 graduate of UW Green Bay, and right now I am the Vice President of Development for ASPIRO. ASPIRO is a nonprofit in Green Bay since 1957, and we serve individuals with cognitive disabilities. In my role at ASPIRO, I am responsible for fundraising for the organization, its marketing, its planned giving, its grant writing, overall being an ambassador for the organization. What I like most about my role is that I can be challenged, I can be innovative, and I can be amazed every single day. When you work at a nonprofit, and you heard a little bit of that from Sara, is that your passion can come through. And every single day, no matter what you're doing, you have an impact on someone else. And I think that's one of the most amazing things about working at a nonprofit, at an organization that you really feel passionate about. And in working at a nonprofit, your skill set can be so varied. You can be in accounting, you can be in public policy, you can be in education. Any role, any major can find a role within a nonprofit. So speaking to what Sara said, you can find your passion no matter what degree you have. My first job in development I never applied for. I was an intern. I applied for an internship while I was a student at UW Green Bay. And I went on to that, and I served out that internship for that semester, and I got an A. And they asked me, my organization asked me to stay on part-time and work through the summer. So I did that. And again, once again, I was going to be done at the end of the summer. I had one more year of school left. And then they said, why don't you stay working with us, work around your schedule at school, and continue on part-time. So I did that. So far I've had 2 going away cakes, and I never ever quit. So at graduation, as I'm going into my final semester, they said, let's write up a contract so you come on full-time once you graduate. So I never applied, and that is how I got into nonprofit work. So I stayed with that organization for about 11 years, and then I went on to work at ASPIRO. And I can say that you can find variety between different nonprofits. You can find, but one thing you'll always find is your passion, because the mission will really speak to you. And if it doesn't, then you need to find one that does. So I think overall, just to summarize, that no matter what skills you have, no matter what your major is, I'm going to echo what Sara said, that you can find it in a nonprofit and you can work your passion.
So I'm Sara Inman, and I work for the Brown County United Way. I'm the Vice President of Community Investment and Strategic Impact. A little bit on my background: I'm a 1992 graduate, political science and public admin. What really made an impact on me here at the university was being able to apply theory into practice through my time in student government. I was the legislative director for the Student Senate for a number of years, and that's really what got me involved in my first job, which was working as a policy analyst / chief of staff, eventually legislative aide with an emphasis in education and healthcare. And really, again, student government involvement was my segue into that. I worked for 12 years in Madison, and it was a very rewarding experience. But when I hit my mid-30s, and I'm dating myself now, I really wanted to do something different. So applying the skills that I had learned working government in school here at UWGB to more of a community-wide approach and more on the local level. So I moved back to Green Bay in 2004 and took a job with United Way, and the way I found out about it was really just seeing the position in the paper. And at the time it was for Community Impact Manager. That was my first role at United Way, and it just really, the job description really struck me as being someone who, like my co-panelists, really values public service. It just seemed to me to be the perfect mix of advocacy, grassroots organizing, being able to work with a number of different organizations to make a difference. So a little bit about United Way. In Brown County, United Way has been around since 1925, so 90 years next year. United Way is on the national level. Literally, a priest, a rabbi, and a minister got together one day and said, we need to find a way to maximize the potential of individual giving. And since then, the United Way model has evolved to include not only giving, but advocating and volunteering. So in my job every day, in my role now, which I stepped into in 2014, is really to oversee our community investments. So the dollars that are raised every year through this United Way total a little over $4 million. And the dollars that are undesignated by donors are administered through a process where we utilize impact councils of community members just like you to help us decide where those investments go based on our research and the applications that come through. And that's a really rewarding experience. In addition to the pure dollars piece of it, though, we do a lot of community building work. And what I mean by that is really that concept of grassroots organizing that I mentioned before, being able to work with organizations like ASPIRO and the Red Cross and many others to be able to make a difference. And we're very solution focused. So part of our work is to mobilize individuals and organizations around specific issues. One that we're really involved with is early childhood development through an initiative called the Community Partnership for Children. And that's now a state model, and we're really pleased to be able to mentor other communities. So those are just a few examples of the type of work I get to do through my role at United Way. The value of public service in its essence, I think, one of my favorite quotes, and I'm paraphrasing, is service is the rent you pay for your space on earth. And in order to be successful in public service, you really need to believe that in your heart and your mind. When you're in a job, whether you're a nonprofit or government, even working in a corporation or as a volunteer for a good cause, people respond to positivity, the opportunity to connect with that good cause and to really make a difference. And through United Way and organizations like ASPIRO and the Red Cross, we all truly can.
Wonderful. Thank you, ladies. What I'd like to do now is go ahead and kind of move around the room as we open up for questions. So think long and hard here about some questions that you have for our wonderful guests today. Who would like to open up and begin for us? First one is always hard. Thank you.
This question is for Sara. You mentioned the importance of mentors. If you could just elaborate more on who those mentors were for you. Were they professors, advisors, maybe a fellow student? That'd be great.
Sure. My most favorite mentor in the entire world is sitting right there, Dr. Laura Warner. We've kept in touch over the years, and she's really provided me some awesome advice, life advice, but also career advice, and has always been there through my ups and downs in my job, graduating, things like that. But also currently, I make it a point to get coffee with one person every month in the Milwaukee community, whether it's someone my colleague has introduced me to or someone I met at a networking event, my peers, things like that. I think it's really important to just talk to them about what their job is or what they like about living in the community, things like that, to kind of open your world up a little bit and learn a little bit more about what's out there. And usually when you ask someone to get coffee, they're more than willing to do it for you.
Nicole and Sara, any other thoughts on mentors?
I think I found my mentors, they were board members of the organization that I worked for. As a board member, nonprofits usually look for board members who obviously have a passion for the organization, but also that can bring resources of their talents and their and gifts. And I would say two people I looked up to were probably the roughest around the edges and would really tell you how it was. And like Sara, we would go out for breakfast or go out for lunch, and I would ask them the tough questions that I had about my job. And they really would lay it out straight for me. So I think those two individuals are two of the ones that I would call my greatest mentors.
I think I would absolutely agree with what both Sara and Nicole are saying. Mentors you can really find anywhere. So at the university, two of my mentors were Dr. Mike Kraft and Dr. Dave Littig at the time, and they were just fabulous in terms of helping me to identify opportunities for internships, and also served as great references for me when I was applying for my first jobs. In terms of working in nonprofit, like Sara and Nicole alluded to, there are so many opportunities when you work for a nonprofit to connect to many people within the full realm of professions that you could think of. So many of my current mentors in most recent years have been people working in the business world who have a passion for human service issues and really have helped me frame causes and problems in terms that individuals from all walks of life can understand. So not just social worky types like me. And it's really been invaluable, and a lot of really incredible people have taken me under their wing over the years. And now that's something I take really seriously. in my role now in being a mentor, and it's something that it's all about paying it forward.
Other questions? Thank you.
This is for all three of you. What is the most rewarding part of your job?
Someone else want to go first?
I'll go first this time. It's really hard to pinpoint just one thing. I would say really the opportunity to work with people from all walks of life, to feel like you have a sense of purpose every day when you go to work, to learn something new every day, and be able to really feel like you can be a part of something innovative in your job.
I would agree with Sarah. Where I work, there's several hundred individuals with disabilities around me every day. And to see their progress or to see their joy in the day is something that I will get up and leave my office to go participate in, because there are times during the day when I need that reinforcement from them. So they really give to me a lot than I give to them. I would say also, working at a nonprofit, you have very little red tape. In large organizations, you know, you have to go through so many processes or so many people or so many departments to get something done. I can make a decision and implement it immediately. So I think I like that kind of on-the-fly decision-making, to try something new, to be innovative, to really rally around something. I don't usually have to ask for a lot of permission. And I think that comes with the trust, you know, that your leadership gives you. But and then also to be challenged, because at nonprofits you have very limited budgets. So I think it gives you an opportunity to really find new ways to address things. And I think those might be, even though it's kind of like a hindrance at times, I think it might be one of the most beneficial things to an individual to make you more innovative. So I think what I find most rewarding is the combination of all of those things, is that I get a chance to really develop professionally because of all of the independence I'm given, but then also I get, my motivation comes from those I'm around every single day.
I think for me, being new to the workforce and being one of those younger generationals in my workplace, it's the first that I get to experience. So in my old position, my first live interview, my first deployment, my first traveling for my job, my first presentation, my first grant that was awarded to me. So right now I'm kind of experiencing a lot of those good firsts, also bad firsts. Your first failure, your first idea that doesn't get accepted, things like that too. It's really fun, I think, being the younger person in my job right now, because a lot of people do want to teach me things and give me experiences. The other part I think that's most rewarding, as I said before, is working with volunteers. At the Red Cross, 96% of our workforce is volunteers, so there's very few staff members in the big scheme of things. So no matter what you're working on, you always have a volunteer by your side, and that passion continuously drives you to do better.
Excellent. Other questions?
This one will be for all three of you guys. You guys all talked a little bit about community, and I was just wondering if you could touch a little more on communities in the aspect, and like maybe provide some personal examples of things you guys have seen with the community.
So examples of public service in action within the community, is that what you're asking? Okay. So just speaking from experience through United Way, I would say, again, through the ability to kind of be Switzerland as an organization, and that gives us the ability to mobilize and work together with many organizations, I've seen some really amazing things. So I mentioned the Community Partnership for Children before. One thing that was made possible through that is a welcome baby system at all 4 hospitals in Brown County, so that whether it's your first child or your 5th child, you get help right away and information right away before a problem or crisis occurred. It sounds like something really simple, but now it's almost to scale, and we serve more than 3,000 families per year just through that. The ability to work with government agencies through nonprofits. So we do a lot of work with Brown County Human Services on the issue of child abuse and neglect, and have just been able to see some incredible work through more than 60 individuals working at organizations all throughout the county who are joining together to make sure that children are safe. Really broad-based examples, but kind of that system level stuff that we do at United Way. I hope that helps answer your question.
Some of the biggest impacts I've seen in community are when collaborations happen between a business and a nonprofit, or nonprofits together. Some of the examples, in the position I was previously, which was at the Boys and Girls Club, there was a need for a place for kids to go after school. The time period between 3 and 6 p.m. was the most dangerous for kids. It wasn't when it was dark out, it wasn't at night. That's the time when usually parents aren't home, they're still at work, and kids needed a constructive, supportive environment, because that's the time when they got into trouble. So together with collaborations with the school district and other entities, after-school programs were formed. And I would say now there's after-school programs at 20 or more schools, but not just through the Boys and Girls Club, also through the YMCA, other small groups like 4-H groups or things like that. So I think it's when nonprofits put their best ideas together and collaborate, they can make a community-wide change. I also, in partnering with a business, an example in my current position is that we are going to be launching in Green Bay Project Search, which you'll probably be hearing about more in the future, but it's a partnership that is actually global, that was started in 1996, and now it's coming to Green Bay. And we're partnering with Bellin Health, where we will be providing internships for individuals with disabilities within the healthcare system, to give them the skills to be able to go on and find community jobs of their own. So I think when you have like-minded agendas, you have to keep the door open for candid discussion. And I think once those things come to light, huge changes can happen, as long as the leadership of the organizations can really come together and put their best ideas together.
So for me, community is kind of whatever you want to make it. Being part of the Red Cross, I am part of a global community, a national community, and a local community. And I think especially in times of larger disasters, you really get to see that word community come about. When I was in Oklahoma specifically, we had what we call a MARC, a multi-agency resource center. The Red Cross staffs and all government, nonprofit, social agencies come together to provide all the resources that community needs at that time. And it's a really cool thing to just go and see it happen, because there's, picture a large gymnasium with all of these tables of all these different agencies spread out, child care centers, there's food, there's water to drink, everything like that. And everyone meets there. And everyone has just gone through the same thing, whether it's a tornado that ripped apart your house, a hurricane that flooded your basement, or a big earthquake. We're all meeting in the same spot to really bring that community together and make a change. And as Nicole was alluding to, when partnerships happen in your community, bigger things happen.
Thank you. What else would you like to learn this morning from these experts?
All
Sarah mentioned how she used social media to kind of use it for her organization. I was wondering if either of you two ever use social media in this way.
I would say social media was one of the biggest things for a nonprofit in a very long time. It allowed us to talk to our donors, our families, our community, and to really share a lot of stories. I think one of the key things in working with a nonprofit is to be able to tell your story, be able to make others feel the way you feel when you're at work, to show them the impact. I would say that ASPIRO does use Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. I think we needed to decide as an organization which of those really would work towards our mission, and we probably use more of the Facebook and LinkedIn than we do Twitter, because it just doesn't, Twitter would not provide as much value to us. Whereas with Sarah's, in Sarah's position, Twitter is a very strong tool for her. So I think all nonprofits use social media. They just have to choose which ones provide the most benefit.
I would agree, and United Way in particular uses Facebook the most, but we have dabbled with Twitter and LinkedIn as well. In terms of our organization, it provides a great opportunity and a low-cost way, because like Nicole said before, as nonprofits, we have very limited budgets. Really just to get the word out about volunteer opportunities within the community and ways people can make a difference. So it's really been impactful for us too.
Hi. I was just wondering, like, did either of you two, because I know Sarah's already answered this question, but did either of you two expect to go into the nonprofit organizations?
Absolutely not. Nope, I really thought I was headed towards the corporate world until that first internship.
And my answer is no as well. Government was my passion when I was here and when I graduated, but it was really never about politics for me, always about public service. And so when I found nonprofit, it's really made an impact on my life, and I'm glad that I found it.
Ladies, would you mind defining nonprofit? I know that's a big question, so we'll kind of have to keep it at a high level, but making sure that we're all on the same page, understanding what that means and how exactly it is funded as well, because that whole funding of nonprofits is a little bit of a mystery also.
Sure.
I'll go first this time. Okay. I think it's important not to confuse nonprofit with charity. A nonprofit is well-run nonprofits are a business model, and I've been a part of 2 different organizations that were funded 2 different ways. My first organization was completely community funded or grant funded. So totally public support. There was no government support. The second organization, ASPIRO, we have sources of income that come from 3 different funding streams. One is through the government, but it's fees for service. Every individual with a disability has money that follows them that they can use for services, and we provide a service to them. So there's fees associated with that. The second area of income is manufacturing, believe it or not. ASPIRO has 2 sites. One of them is a complete manufacturing site where we provide job training to individuals with disabilities. So we provide real work opportunities. We have contracts with the federal government, with commercial businesses, where we provide service to them and payment in return. So we have government, manufacturing, and then what I'm in charge of is the fundraising and the development. Fundraising can mean is a wide gamut of things. People most commonly think of special events, walks, runs, dinners, and that's all part of it. But then there's also individual giving, which is the most powerful piece of any kind of fundraising. There's grant writing and there's planned giving. And planned giving is when an individual or a couple has made the decision to provide for your organization at the time of their death through a will or a life insurance policy or things like that. So it's a many-faceted piece of an organization when it's fundraising.
So I think Nicole just gave a really great summary of the variety of ways in which nonprofits can be funded. United Way in particular is supported entirely by the community, and that means a lot to us as employees. We have an annual workforce campaign. I mentioned before that raises about $4 million a year. And that's comprised of individual gifts through payroll giving, corporate donations, plan giving, and other similar gifts.
And I would just add to that, the most important part about a nonprofit is when they are taking your donated dollar, they're not profiting off of it. And so separate from a corporation, they're investing that money back into a service or program that affects their community.
Wonderful, excellent. I'm actually going to turn the microphone over to Dr. Laura Warner. She teaches a class on nonprofits, and I just want to give her a little short bit of time to explain that. Some students here are actually in your class, and I think it's appropriate as a follow-up to that question.
All right. Actually, we have a whole certificate program in nonprofit management in the Public and Environmental Affairs Department. My freshman class is hopscotching the world of nonprofit organizations. Hey, you guys, shout out for our class. Woo-hoo! They're all over the audience. I'm glad they're here. That wasn't a very impressive shout. Anyway, we have a nonprofit certificate program now, which any major on campus can do a minor in our department, take about 6 classes, get into an internship, and you can have a nonprofit management certificate. It's a fairly new program. Sara went through it, but Nicole and Sara Inman, they were there before we really got this going. And it's a great series of courses. We teach fundraising, we teach evaluating a program, we teach management of nonprofit. I know a lot of those students are here too. So it's a real nice opportunity. I don't think there are any other UWs that offer this at the undergraduate level. So you can do it with any other major, or you could major in public admin and do the certificate. So thanks, Kim, for letting me do a plug.
Other questions this morning? What else is out there?
Kim, I'll just add that there's about over 400 nonprofits in Brown County. So you have every opportunity to find one that is your passion. I would also add that even if you're not working at a nonprofit, you can still provide your expertise and your skill set to a nonprofit through volunteering. Either as a committee member, we all have committees that we work with, in fund development, in public policy, in audit finance, in programming, and those are just mine. I'm sure they have many, many others, which would take, an hour or 2 of your time a month. But I think that is a really great way to be able to see what's out there in terms of a nonprofit is if you volunteer with one. And like I said, with the variety that's out there, they're sure that you will find one that speaks to you.
And there are also really wonderful opportunities for internships or independent studies. We've been really fortunate to host UWGB students, St. Norbert, NWTC, the whole gamut. And it's really been a great experience, and it gives you the opportunity to contribute in ways that you sometimes couldn't imagine. And as Nicole said, if you don't want to do a formal internship or an independent study, there's always the opportunity to volunteer.
And I think just as someone who's recently gone through this, it's sometimes hard to work for free as an intern in a nonprofit organization, but really put the time into it because you never know what skills you have that are going to come forth through that internship and might even lead you to a job like it did for me down in Milwaukee. And so find the time, maybe 10 hours a week, 5 hours a week, just something to get your foot in the door and learn a little bit more. And especially for me, as I started at the Red Cross, I thought they were a disaster relief organization, but they're so much more than that, and there's so many other programs that you can be a part of. And so with any nonprofit, I'm sure you'll be surprised at the effects and effects that it will have on yourself as an individual, but what doors it might open for you.
And there are also opportunities within government. Speaking from experience, at least at the state level, it's a pretty simple process to be able to intern at the state capitol. In terms of corporations, a lot of them are now engaging in social responsibility. So there are departments, for instance, within banks locally, where you could contact the person in charge of that realm, and there might be a potential internship or volunteer opportunity there as well.
Excellent. Well, that wraps up our discussion today. In our Phoenix Talks, I want to thank Sara from American Red Cross, Nicole from ASPIRO, and Sara from United Way. Can we have a round of applause for these guests?